Hey everyone, so I wanted to run through different draft classes with you all, looking at just production score. Remember, if you haven't seen the video on production scores, just check it out. I described briefly how I came up with it and what exactly it does. Essentially, to describe it in a sentence, it's what a player did different from the average successful NFL player at each position at every age they played in college. So it's a summary of how, and it's adjusted by the predictive power of that value. So essentially, it takes into account how predictive market share is at every age that they played, as it is different from the average player who is successful in the NFL. And she just watched the video. That was a terrible explanation. But what I wanted to show you is some kind of better way of seeing whether it's useful or not, or how to incorporate it in your own process, how to value it when you see a high score or a low score. Now, I think it's going to be easier for most people, and it honestly is for me, to break it down by using names and then looking at points, right? We know who Amari Cooper is. If I say a score is 70% successful at predicting NFL production, I think that's understandable. Everyone gets that, but it's not nearly as vivid or easy to understand how to incorporate it into the 2009 draft class as looking at past classes and what it said about them. I think that's just a little more vivid. And so I wanted to go through production score specifically with you guys, and look at how it did in different draft classes. So let me skip over here. Now, luckily for us, we have an 18-year history of players, so we can actually do this. So if I slide over to the production score tab and sort maximum to minimum, then the highest scores will be at the top and the lowest scores will be at the bottom no matter what, just to teach you to suck eggs for a minute. Then I don't want to look at every draft class. I just want to look at, say, the 2018 draft class. And then I don't want to look at every position. I just want to look at tight ends. So now what we have is a list of tight ends and how they were ranked by production score for the 2018 class. And here it says Mark Andrews, had the highest production score of anyone in that class, which is interesting since it's the off season. He might be worth a buy. I've seen his name thrown away. Gesicki comes in second. Herndon, who is actually the best buy from the 2018 class because he had more success in his rookie season than all of these guys, actually came up fourth. Now, one thing I notice is that if you rank these by draft round and by production score, you would have got a pretty good understanding that Chris Herndon was the guy to go get. That's just one class, right? Let's see if that makes sense through past classes. There are going to be hits and there are going to be misses. It's only going to get things right if we look at the RSQ tab 17% of the time, which is terrible. And that's not even being right 17% of the time. That's getting their points per game 17% right, which is actually a slightly different thing. But anyway, hopefully looking through draft classes will help explain what that means a little bit better. So let's go look at the 2017 class. Let me zoom in. I'm not sure those names will come up too well. And I can shrink all this. Okay. And where does my picture come out to? Okay. Might be a little too small. I'm worried my head is covering all the names here. So, I don't think I can shrink that anymore. Let's shrink me. I'm tiny now. Alright. So, if we look at the 2017 draft class, it actually says Jono Smith had the best production score. Gerald Everett came in second. David Njoku, who is the most interesting buy low tight end from this class, came in third. And Evan Ingram came in fourth. Jake Butt, interestingly, came in fifth. Now, if we're going to break this down fully, I'd also start to look at their actual production scores, and that will give you an idea of how they ranked compared to past draft classes. For example, 0.8 isn't going to be particularly good. But in this class, it was fairly well. And again, if we sorted this by draft round and by production score, it'd be obvious that Njoku and Ingram were the guys to go and get, followed by Smith, then Everett. Ingram was actually the guy you wanted. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. But David Njoku certainly hasn't been disappointed for a tight end at least, and he's still got a lot of value. If it hasn't risen, it should have since his rookie season. So it wouldn't have led you wrong, but it wouldn't have put you on the highest scoring tight end in the rookie season. So that's interesting to know. Also, the difference between them was only 0.4. So that had him ranked fairly well, fairly closely compared to what they did compared to average, based on how predictive those ages were. Let's dig back a little deeper so we know a little bit more about the players. 2016, it had Henry ranked above everyone else. Austin Hooper was my buy last offseason, and that worked out. And again, that 3-year rule. Let's see how they scored. Yeah, Hooper 0.7, Hunter Henry 3%. And again, just sorting by draft round and then production score would have got you on both of those guys, right? And in that order, Henry over Hooper. Is there anyone else from this class that broke out last draft? Like Nick Vannett actually got some hype at some point, but obviously this would have taken me right off Vannett. So far, that's been fine. Let's go back through to 15. Okay, and then we have our first obviously big miss. Max Williams was described as the best tight end in the 2015 class. Will Tye actually had a decent season, or a decent section of a season, and it wouldn't have put you on him. But obviously he hasn't continued to be valuable either. Uzoma has had productive stretches as well, but has been nothing but disappointed. But again, it wouldn't have highlighted him based on the production he had in college and all. So we wouldn't have gotten those outliers or value jumps. It's also worrying that Max Williams has such a high score. But then again, Max Williams got injured. It has been weird that he hasn't done anything with the Ravens, with his draft capital, and with the production in college. So I'm not too mad at that miss. And from that class, we got lucky. There's really no tight end worth owning in that class yet, at least. But again, putting names to that 17% number. Interesting enough, from the 2014 class, Austin Seferian-Jenkins ranked the highest. What was his score actually look like? 4.2%. So less than Max Williams, but also less than Hunter Henry. So putting it in context, that's fine. Both Evans and Ingram took a while to break out. Sorting it by draft round, you probably still rather have Ebron right now, especially after last season. But Jenkins had more value jumps, and Ebron had more value losses over time. Now, production score isn't telling you any of that. And I'm not saying it was going to do that for every class. That's the point of walking through class by class. I'm just trying to think how well I would have done, so that when I look at the 2019 class, I know not to just jump at the guy with the highest score, right? It's just an idea of how they did in college, and this is an idea of how successful that is of actually projecting players. But overall, I'm not unhappy with Ebron and Jenkins being in the top 4. Both of them having positive production values. That seems to be part of that 70% hit rate. That 0.8 doesn't do Ebron justice, but we did have to wait a long time for it. And Jenkins has had injury-riddled years. He's possibly still a buy low now, and has had stretches of production. Fedorowicz was looking great there until he had a career-ending injury. Crockett Gilmore, obviously, I would have liked him way too much if I was just using production score and valuing it more than that 17%. So I think Crockett Gilmore is a big for production score for the first for the last 3-4 years, or since 2014. Looking at a 2013 class, it did not rank. Obviously, Ertz and Eifert did not get ranked high enough. Neither did Kelsey, neither did Reed. Obviously, you wanted all of those guys over any of else. So this is the first really bad ranking at the same time. Just to be fair to it, fair to myself a bit, I guess. They all have positive production scores. So at least there is that. Jack Doyle actually comes up, and actually, I never knew Jack Doyle's name until he started catching touchdowns with Andrew Luck. And the fact an undrafted free agent who did well in the NFL is actually coming up with these names. I don't know I don't know of any tight end score that highlighted Jack Doyle before that. But then again, production score is based on R-squared value, which is derived from comparing a sample with Jack Doyle in it. So just to be safe, I've told it that Jack Doyle looks good. That Jack Doyle had, well, he only had 3 points over his average points per game. So to be fair, it wasn't highlighting him, but still, I think that despite all these bad things, and these guys obviously were better players, and again, draft round would have led you to them if we organized by draft round and then organized by production score. Would have had Eifert over Ertz. Who knows if Eifert had always been healthy, maybe that would look better than it does today. But Jordan Reed being the third out of them, and even under Vance McDonald, that's obviously terrible. And so is Travis Kelce. So yeah, there's a limit. There's part of its limiting factor. But again, Kelce had to wait a while, but no, he did well in the first 3 years too. So that's disappointing. But Jack Doyle is perhaps a positive note. That if you see an undrafted free agent like him, like Joseph Fororia, obviously didn't work out. But, I mean, it's something. Just based on production, not even taking draft capital, physical metrics into account. When you start adding more information, it might be easy to pick which of these scores actually matter, right? That's the whole point. 2012, well, there was no one in this class that you wanted. So, I don't think it's on... And Ladarius Green was interesting at one point. And again, season-ending injury, right? So maybe that would have worked out. We'll never know. Dwayne Allen and Kobe Fleener, I guess, did okay. I guess just you could also just target Colts tight ends, to be fair, to get there, though. I don't want this to drag on too long. We're already at 12 minutes. Let me just look at one more class to get an idea of it. And we'll call this a tight end video. Charles Clay, Kyle Rudolph, again, both come up in the top 4. Those are the ones you wanted from this class, obviously. Kyle Rudolph had a negative score. I'd say that's the worst thing I've seen so far. And that he actually had a negative score. So his production was not telling us that he was as good as he is. Again, that's why it's only at 17% right. But Charles Clay has productive years. I maintain on a better team in a different situation. I think he's better than he's underrated. At this point, we're not going out and getting Charles Clay, but I wouldn't say that's terrible. Gronkowski not coming out as the best tight end in the class, obviously wrong. And Garrett Graham being valued at all, also wrong. But he did have a top 24 season, I guess. Let's look at their actual score before I close this out. Where is it? Where's my models? There they are. Yeah. Oh, no, that's not the production score. Okay, 3.8% is a really good score based on what I've seen so far. So it was definitely telling us that Rob Gronkowski is good. It was also telling us that Garrett Graham was good, though. So, you know, hits or misses. It also missed on... I'll call that a miss, being this low. Jermaine Gresham's interesting. He's someone that I think was held back just by the way his NFL career went. But obviously, we don't care. We just care about the points. Alright, let's get back here. So, again, just a quick video, and you guys can go on when I upload this latest update, which should be there by the time you see this video, and actually break it down further looking by class. But that's one of the things I like to do, especially when I develop a new score, is go back and look at literal names, just to get a sense of what that R-squared value really means in terms of how my drafts would have gone if I just relied on that alone. And remember that, and we were just looking at tight ends, but 70% is actually really high. College Dominator is lower. So if you've been valuing College Dominator or Breakout Age for tight ends, both of those would have had worse lists. And you can use the database to go back and look, organize it by Breakout Age, organize it by College Dominator, and go back through the class, and you should see worse results, is the idea. But anyway, let me get out of here so that it'll actually upload before 2020. Thanks again, and I'll see you again in the next video.